And I think the biggest debate that's kind of been online, which is very interesting, and I want to get your sense of how you put it together. Who's the quarterback? Who's the best quarterback that the Lions have had these last 25 years? And most notably, it's going to be Jared Goff or Matthew Stafford because of their length of time and their tenure. 12 years, almost half the century was Matthew Stafford. Unfortunately, it didn't really produce a lot of playoff success, but there's still an infatuation in regards to the arm strength, the gunslinger mentality, the way in which Stafford took to the community and helped out. It's unfortunately 0 for 3 in the postseason, not getting to the postseason nearly enough. The game against Dallas in the postseason, the team had a chance with him under center, and unfortunately, he didn't lead the team to victory. Now, of course, there were some things that factored against the Lions, but still, the quarterback at the time, I had said that I would not have paid Matthew Stafford that extension. I would have quickly pivoted to someone else. I think the writing was on the wall that for whatever reason, his turnovers were too high. He was part of the reason that the team did not have success. But yes, there were other factors. The team's offensive line wasn't as great, but you still had one of the best Pro Football Hall of Fame wide receivers on your roster. So it wasn't like he had no weapons. He had talent on that team, and most notably, that team that lost to the Dallas Cowboys. You look at it and you say, my goodness, one of those teams was pretty solid and had a real strong chance to advance. But Jared Goff, I think, is benefiting from the fact that he got those 2 playoff wins for the Detroit Lions. They think, okay, Jared Goff has led the team to more success. He is a more traditional pocket passer, a leader, somebody that, people can gravitate toward his story, kind of cast aside by his former team, comes to Detroit, similar to under the radar players. And people felt like he was, kicked around by the National Football League. But then he proved that, okay, if you surround a quarterback with talent, he can execute, and he does deserve credit for the things that the Lions have accomplished. But he still has that one last goal to achieve on his mantle that Stafford achieved right when he left. Literally, 365 days later, Matthew Stafford's a world champion. And now Jared Goff is still battling. The last performance that we saw with Jared Goff wasn't that great. In my opinion, I would take Matthew Stafford. I would think that his arm is a little bit stronger. It kind of goes to show you that, with the talent, and you have a deep threat in Jamison Williams right now. I would have included Jamison Williams. You did not in terms of wide receivers, but I think that Matthew Stafford probably the pick I would make in regards to who's the best quarterback of the last 25 years for the Lions. But why would some make the argument for Goff? And who did you pick?
So I went with Matthew Stafford, and I think that my biggest reasoning with Matthew Stafford, I understand the discrepancy in playoff success, and Jared Goff has taken this team deeper in the postseason than Matthew Stafford ever did. But I think that when you look over the course of his entire time with the Lions, I think Matthew Stafford has set a very high bar that Goff is going to have to play well for a long time. He's going to have to play at a high level for a long time to match Matthew Stafford's success. Matthew Stafford threw for over 45,000 yards in his time as a Lion. He threw for 282 touchdowns. And he's a comeback player of the year. He's the first Lion to throw for the only Lion, I might add, to throw for 5,000 yards in a season. And I know that having Kelvin Johnson obviously helps. Anytime you've got the best receiver in the game to throw the ball to at a consistent level, that's obviously going to help. But I think that, and Goff has shown plenty of durability as well. But I think when Matthew Stafford, when you talk about, kind of like the first defining moment he had was that game against the Browns when he suffers the separated shoulder and they call timeout and he goes back into the game and throws the touchdown pass. Like, that sort of thing is kind of what will always define the good of Matthew Stafford. And there was plenty of bad, right? He did have a propensity for those late game turnovers and the interceptions, which, that unfortunately that's part of his story too. But I think that when you look at the overall scope, and you mentioned the stuff he did in the community, that's a huge part of it. And Goff is doing the same now, but I just think that Stafford's tenure was longer and he has a more thorough base to evaluate at this stage, and that's why I went with him over Goff. Now, here's some things to consider. Jared Goff, through 4 seasons with the Lions, has only missed 3 games, and it was all 3 in the same year. He had the oblique issue and the testing positive for COVID in 2021. But right now, his completion percentage as a Lion is 5 percentage points higher. He's 67.9% to Matthew Stafford, 62.6. He's thrown 115 touchdowns in 4 years. There are only 39 interceptions. So his touchdown percentage and his interception percentage are both better than Stafford's. Stafford played 12 years with the Lions. Goff's only played 4. So he had a third of the experience with the organization as to what Stafford did. But some of those numbers are trending towards the win-loss percentage. He's 14 games over 500. Matthew Stafford was 16 games under 500 in his time as the Lions starting quarterback. So I went with Stafford right now because from 2000 to 2025, Matthew Stafford is the most statistically productive and the best quarterback the Lions have had. Now, when we reevaluate this 10 years from now, let's think about, has Jared Goff led the team to the Super Bowl? 10 years from now, is Jared Goff still the quarterback of the Lions organization? Who knows? I mean, these are all things that you have to kind of consider with where he's at, because he's still got plenty left in the tank, and he's got plenty of opportunities to surpass Stafford as the number one guy in the Lions organization, not just in the 21st century, but potentially all time. If you factor in, does Goff win a Super Bowl ring? Does he win 2 Super Bowl rings? I think if he gets 1, that conversation already changes its tone, and you're looking at Jared Goff in a more favorable light than Matthew Stafford. If he gets 2, I think he's unquestionably the best quarterback, not only in the 21st century, but in Lions history as well. So still plenty of time for him to make his case, but at this stage, where we stand in 2025, I went with Stafford.